Kira Venth moved through the shadows of the space station like death itself. Her pale blue skin shifted and changed colors, making her almost invisible against the metal walls. She was the most feared killer in the galaxy, and everyone knew her name, even if they had never seen her face. The bar was crowded with aliens from dozens of different worlds. Traders, smugglers, and criminals all drank together. But when Kira walked in, conversation stopped. Her reputation walked ahead of her like a ghost. She had killed more people than most soldiers saw in a lifetime of war. 347, she whispered to herself, counting her victims as she always did. Each number was a life ended, a contract completed, a payment received. She felt nothing about the deaths. Feeling was a luxury assassins could not afford. The bartender, a large creature with 4 arms, nervously cleaned glasses as Kira approached. His hands shook so badly that he nearly dropped everything he touched. She sat down on a stool that creaked under her weight, and the alien sitting nearby quickly moved away. "What can I get you?" the bartender asked in a voice barely above a whisper. "Information," Kira replied. Her voice was soft but cold, like winter wind. "I need to know about Earth." Earth was a small planet on the edge of known space. Humans lived there, a young species that had barely learned to travel between stars. Most aliens thought humans were weak and stupid, not worth bothering with. But someone wanted a human dead badly enough to hire the galaxy's most expensive assassin. The bartender's 4 eyes widened with fear. "Earth? Why would someone like you want to go there? It's nothing but a backwater world full of primitives." Kira placed a small device on the bar. It projected a hologram of a human male with dark hair and kind eyes. "This man lives there, Dr. Lee Min-ho. Tell me what you know about humans. They're strange," the bartender said, still shaking. "They form these weird emotional bonds with each other. They actually care about their offspring instead of just producing them and moving on. Makes them weak, if you ask me." Kira studied the hologram. The human looked ordinary, nothing special about him at all. She had killed alien warlords who could crush starships with their bare hands. She had eliminated crime bosses who commanded armies of killers. This human looked like he could barely hurt a fly. Why would anyone want him dead? She wondered aloud. "No," bartender leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Word is he discovered something that scared some very powerful people, the kind of people who can afford to hire you." Kira touched the device, and the hologram disappeared. She had learned long ago not to ask too many questions about her targets. Curiosity was another luxury assassins could not afford. Someone wanted this human dead. They were paying her enough money to buy a small moon, and that was all she needed to know. She stood up, leaving payment on the bar. The bartender looked at the credits with surprise. Most assassins were cheap, but Kira always paid well. It was part of her reputation. "Thank you for the information," she said politely. Even killers could have manners. As she walked toward the docking bay where her ship waited, other aliens pressed themselves against the walls to avoid her. A group of mercenaries who had been laughing loudly suddenly went quiet. Even the station security guards, tough beings who feared very little, stepped aside to let her pass. Kira's ship was small but fast, built for stealth rather than comfort. She had spent more time in its cramped cockpit than she had in any home. Home was wherever her next target lived, and right now that was Earth. She settled into the pilot's seat and began the launch sequence. The ship's computer asked for her destination, and she typed in the coordinates for the human homeworld. As the engines warmed up, she reviewed the mission file one more time. Dr. Lee Min-ho, age 34, worked as some kind of scientist. He lived alone with his young daughter in a place called Seoul. The file mentioned that his wife had died 2 years ago, leaving him to raise their child by himself. Kira found this information useless. She did not care about the target's personal life. The ship lifted off from the station and entered hyperspace. Earth was 3 days away at maximum speed. Kira spent the time as she always did, checking her weapons, reviewing building plans, and planning the kill. This would be contract number 348. She had never failed a mission. She had never shown mercy. She had never hesitated when the moment came to pull the trigger. Other assassins sometimes developed what they called a conscience, but Kira had cut that weakness out of herself long ago. The human would die quickly and quietly. His daughter would wake up to find her father gone. It would be tragic, but tragedy was the business Kira was in. She was very good at her business. As Earth grew larger on her ship's view screen, Kira felt the familiar coldness settle over her mind. Soon she would add another number to her count. Soon, Dr. Lee Min-ho would discover why the galaxy's most feared assassin had never met a target she could not kill. She had no idea that this simple human and his child were about to change everything she believed about herself. Kira's ship landed silently in the darkness outside Seoul. Her advanced technology made no sound as it touched down in an empty field far from the city lights. She checked her weapons one final time, activated her camouflage suit, and stepped into the cool night air. The human city was larger than she had expected. Millions of lights twinkled like stars, and the air carried strange smells she had never encountered before. Cars moved along roads like metal insects, and tall buildings reached toward the sky. For a primitive species, humans had built something almost impressive. Finding Dr. Lee Min-ho's house was easy. Her computer had downloaded maps and security information during the flight. The target lived in a quiet neighborhood full of small houses with tiny gardens. Kira moved through the shadows like a ghost, her camouflage making her invisible to human eyes. The house was simple, nothing like the fortified palaces where her usual targets lived. No guards, no security systems, no weapons, just a normal home, where a normal human lived with his child. Kira almost felt insulted. Did her employers really think she needed to be sent after someone so helpless? She studied the house for hours, watching through windows. The target was awake, sitting at a desk covered with papers and strange devices. He looked tired, very tired. His hair was messy and his clothes were wrinkled like he had been wearing them for days. The kill would be simple. One shot through. The window and the human would die instantly. Clean, quiet, professional. But something made Kira hesitate. She wanted to understand why someone would pay so much money to kill such an ordinary person. She slipped through the house's simple locks like they were made of paper. Human security was laughably weak compared to what she was used to. The house was dark and quiet, filled with the smell of food and something else she could not identify. Kira moved toward the room where her target worked, but sounds from another part of the house stopped her. Someone was crying. Not the target, but someone, smaller, younger, the child, she realized. She followed the sound to a bedroom door that was slightly open. Inside she could see the human male sitting beside a small bed. A little girl lay under colorful blankets, her face red with fever. She was crying softly, and the human was gently wiping her forehead with a wet cloth. "Daddy, it hurts," the child whispered. Her voice was weak and full of pain. "I know, sweetheart," the human replied. His voice was soft and gentle, nothing like the way Kira had expected a target to sound. "The medicine will help soon. Daddy is here." Kira had seen many things in her long career as an assassin. She had witnessed torture, war, and death in countless forms, but she had never seen anything like this. The human was not sleeping or working or doing anything useful. He was simply sitting with his sick child, trying to comfort her. The little girl's eyes suddenly turned toward Kira's position. Even with her camouflage active, children sometimes saw things adults missed. Instead of fear, the child's face filled with wonder. "Daddy, look," she said, pointing directly at Kira. "The pretty lady is here to help us." The human spun around, his eyes searching the empty space where his daughter was pointing. He saw nothing, of course. Kira's camouflage was perfect. "There's no one there so young," he said gently. "You're seeing things because you have a fever." But the child smiled, a weak but genuine smile. "She's beautiful, Daddy, just like the angels in the stories you tell me." The human looked confused and worried. He checked the room's temperature and gave his daughter more medicine. "Try to sleep now, sweetheart. I'll stay right here with you." Kira remained perfectly still, watching this strange scene. She had studied many species, but she had never seen a parent care for their offspring like this. On her homeworld, children were raised by the community. Adults had more important things to do than sit with sick youngsters. The human started, singing softly, a gentle melody that seemed to ease the child's pain. His voice was not particularly good, but it was full of love. Kira found herself listening to the simple song, watching the child slowly fall asleep. Hours passed. The human never left his daughter's side. He dozed in his chair sometimes, but always woke up when she moved or made a sound. He checked her temperature repeatedly, gave her water when she was thirsty, and held her hand when she was scared. Kira had come here to kill this man. She had killed hundreds of beings without hesitation. But something about this scene made her weapon feel heavy in her hands. The human was not a criminal or a warlord. He was just a father taking care of his sick child. As dawn approached, the little girl's fever finally broke. She opened her eyes and looked directly at Kira again. "Thank you for watching over us," she whispered so quietly that only Kira could hear. The human smiled with relief, not knowing that the galaxy's most dangerous assassin had spent the night in his daughter's bedroom. He gently kissed the child's forehead and tucked her blankets around her. "Sleep now, my angel," he said softly. "Daddy will always protect you." Kira left the house as silently as she had entered. But for the first time in her career, she did not complete her mission. Something about the human and his child had changed the plan completely. For 3 days, Kira watched the house instead of completing her mission. She told herself she was gathering more information, but the truth was stranger than that. She could not stop watching the human and his daughter. Every morning, Minho would wake up tired and check on So Young before doing anything else. The little girl was getting sicker, not better. Her fever came and went, but each time it returned, it was worse than before. The human barely slept, barely ate, barely left her side except to work on something in his home laboratory. Kira used her advanced technology to listen to their conversations and watch through the windows. What she discovered made her very confused about why someone wanted this man dead. Minho was not making weapons or planning attacks. He was trying to save his daughter's life. So Young had a rare disease that was slowly killing her. The medicine that existed was too expensive for most people to buy, and it only helped for a short time. Minho was working day and night to find a real cure. "Please, sweetheart, try to eat something," Minho said on the second day, holding a bowl of soup. So Young was so weak she could barely lift her head. "I'm not hungry, Daddy," she whispered. "My stomach hurts." Minho's hands were shaking as he set down the bowl. Kira could see tears in his eyes, but he was trying to stay strong for his daughter. "Just a little bit? For me?" So Young managed to eat 3 small spoonsful before she was too tired to continue. Minho praised her like she had climbed a mountain. Then he carried her to the living room and put on her favorite movie while he worked on his computer nearby. Kira watched him work for hours. His research was about the disease that was killing his daughter, but it was much bigger than that. Thousands of children across the galaxy had the same sickness. The companies that made the expensive medicine were making huge profits, while children died. Minho had found a way to make the cure much cheaper and much better. His research could save thousands of lives and cost the pharmaceutical companies billions of dollars. That was why someone wanted him dead. On the 3rd day, So Young got much worse. Her fever was so high that she started talking to people who were not there. Minho called doctors and hospitals, but they all said the same thing. The only treatment was too expensive, and even if they could afford it, there was no guarantee it would work. "I won't let you die," Minho told his daughter, holding her hot little hand. "Daddy will find a way to save you, I promise." Kira had never seen anyone fight so hard for another person. Minho had not slept properly in days. He was living on coffee and determination, working on his research whenever So Young was sleeping. His eyes were red with exhaustion, but he never gave up. That evening, Kira's communication device buzzed. Her employers were getting impatient. "Status report," a cold voice demanded. "Target is under surveillance," Kira replied, as she had for the past 3 days. "You have had plenty of time to complete this simple assignment. The human should be dead by now." Kira looked through the window at Minho, who was giving So Young medicine and singing softly to help her sleep. There have been complications. What? Kind of complications? He is just a human. Kill him and be done with it. The target has a child. She is very sick. So, children die all the time. Complete the mission within 24 hours or we will send someone else to finish the job. The communication ended, leaving Kira alone in the darkness. She had never cared about her targets before. She had killed parents, leaving children orphaned. She had killed children, leaving parents heartbroken. It was just business, nothing personal. But watching Minho care for his daughter had awakened something in Kira that she thought was dead. Long ago, before she became an assassin, she had been a child too. She remembered her own father holding her when she was scared, promising that everything would be okay. Her father had not been able to keep that promise. Their planet had been destroyed in a war, and everyone she loved had died. Kira had survived by becoming hard, cold, and deadly. She had forgotten what it felt like to love someone more than your own life. Now she was watching Minho do exactly what her father had tried to do. He was fighting impossible odds to protect his child. The only difference was that Minho might actually succeed if he lived long enough to finish his research. Inside the house, So Young woke up crying from a bad dream. Minho immediately went to her, speaking in gentle words and holding her until she felt safe again. He told her stories about brave princesses and kind dragons until she smiled and went back to sleep. Kira made a decision that surprised her. She was not going to kill Minho. She was going to protect him and his daughter from the people who had hired her. But first, she needed to understand exactly what Minho had discovered and why it was so dangerous to the pharmaceutical companies. She needed to know what was worth killing for, and what was worth dying to protect. The galaxy's most feared assassin had never failed a mission before, but she had never met a target who reminded her what it meant to be human. The next morning, 3 ships landed silently in the field where Kira had hidden her own vessel. She watched through her scope as 6 figures in dark suits stepped out. They moved like professionals, checking weapons and scanning the area. Her employers had sent backup assassins to finish the job she had failed to complete. Kira recognized the team leader immediately. Vex was another Cytherian like herself, but younger and more ruthless. He had no patience for complicated missions or careful planning. He would kill Minho and anyone else who got in his way, including the sick child. This is unfortunate, Kira whispered to herself. She had hoped to have more time to figure out a solution. Her communication device buzzed with an incoming message from Vex. Kira Venth, the famous ghost assassin. I always wondered when you would finally lose your edge. I have not lost anything, Kira replied coldly. The situation is more complex than our employers indicated. Complex? It is a simple elimination job. 1 human scientist, easy target. What could be complex about that? Through her scope, Kira could see the backup team spreading out around Minho's neighborhood. They were professionals, but not as experienced as her. Still, 6 against 1 was not good odds, especially when she had to protect 2 civilians. The target has valuable information, Kira said, trying to buy time. Killing him now might waste important intelligence. Vex laughed, a harsh sound that made Kira's skin crawl. Since when do you care about intelligence? You point, you shoot, you collect payment. That is how this works. Inside the house, Minho was making breakfast for his daughter. So Young was feeling a little better today, sitting at the kitchen table and trying to eat small bites of toast. She was still very weak, but she was smiling at something her father was saying. I care about doing the job correctly, Kira said. These humans are not what we were told. I do not care what they are. I have my orders, and unlike you, I follow them. You have 1 hour to complete your mission, or we complete it for you. The communication ended. Kira knew that Vex meant what he said. In 1 hour, he would attack the house with his full team. Minho and So Young would both die unless she did something to stop it. She had 3 choices. She could complete her original mission and kill Minho herself. She could walk away and let Vex handle it. Or she could fight 6 professional assassins to protect 2 humans she barely knew. The smart choice was obvious. Minho was just 1 human among billions. His death would not matter to the galaxy. Kira had killed hundreds of people, and the universe had kept spinning. Why should this be different? But as she watched Minho gently help his daughter take her medicine, Kira remembered something her father had told her long ago. Sometimes, little star, the right choice is not the smart choice. Sometimes you have to choose with your heart, not your head. She had been only 6 years old when he said that, the same age as So Young. The next day, their world had burned and her father had died protecting strangers who could not protect themselves. Kira had always thought he was foolish to throw his life away for people he did not know. Now she understood. Her father had not died for strangers. He had died for the idea that some things were more important than survival. He had died believing that protecting the innocent was worth any sacrifice. Kira checked her weapons and prepared for battle. She was about to do something incredibly stupid, and she knew it. 6 trained killers against 1 lone assassin was not a fair fight. But fair fights were for people who had choices. Kira had made her choice. She moved toward the house, staying invisible with her camouflage. Minho was reading a story to So Young in the living room. The little girl was curled up next to her father, listening with wide eyes to his tale about brave heroes who fought monsters to protect villages. "Daddy," So Young said softly, "do the heroes ever get scared?" "Of course they do, sweetheart. Being brave does not mean you are not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared." Kira smiled grimly. The human was wiser than he knew. She was more scared than she had been in decades. But she was going to do the right thing anyway. Vex and his team were approaching the house from 3 directions. They planned to surround it and attack from all sides at once. It was a good strategy. But Kira had one advantage they did not expect. She knew they were coming. She positioned herself between the assassins and the house, her weapon ready. Through the window she could see Minho still reading to his daughter, completely unaware of the danger approaching his home. "I am sorry, Father," Kira whispered to the memory of the man who had taught her about courage. "It took me a long time to understand what you were trying to tell me." Then she dropped her camouflage and stepped into the open, making herself a target to protect the 2 humans inside. The galaxy's most feared assassin had finally found something worth fighting for. The battle was short, but deadly. Kira had the advantage of surprise and years of experience, but fighting 6 assassins at once pushed her to her limits. Energy blasts lit up the quiet neighborhood as she moved between houses and gardens, using every shadow and corner for cover. Vex was good, but not good enough. Kira's first shot caught him in the chest before he could react. 2 more assassins fell quickly, but the remaining 3 spread out and tried to surround her. One of them got lucky and hit her shoulder with a plasma bolt that burned through her armor. The pain was terrible, but Kira kept fighting. She thought about Minho reading stories to his sick daughter, and the thought gave her strength. By the time the police sirens started wailing in the distance, all 6 backup assassins were dead. Kira stumbled to Minho's front door, bleeding and exhausted. She pounded on the door with her good arm. When he opened it, his face went white, with shock. She was covered in blood, her camouflage suit was torn, and she was holding a smoking weapon. "Who are you?" he asked, stepping protectively in front of his daughter's room. "Someone who was sent to kill you," Kira said honestly. "But I changed my mind." Before Minho could respond, So Young appeared beside him. She looked up at Kira with those same wondering eyes she had shown before. "You are hurt," the little girl said with concern. "Daddy, the angel lady is hurt. We have to help her." Minho looked at his daughter, then at Kira, then at the destruction visible through his front window. Dead bodies lay scattered across his neighborhood, and his house had bullet holes in the walls. "You killed them to protect us," he said. "It was not a question." "Yes," Kira replied simply. "Why?" Kira looked at So Young, who was still staring at her with trust instead of fear. "Because some things are more important than money." Minho helped Kira inside and treated her wounds while So Young watched. His hands were steady as he cleaned the burns and applied medical patches. He had obviously done this kind of work before. "You are a doctor?" Kira asked. "I have medical training," he replied. "I needed it for my research." As he worked, Minho, explained what he had discovered. The disease killing his daughter was caused by a genetic mutation that affected millions of children across dozens of species. The current treatment was expensive and only worked temporarily. But Minho had found a way to fix the genetic problem permanently, using a simple procedure that would cost almost nothing. The pharmaceutical companies make billions of dollars selling temporary treatments, he said sadly. If my cure works, they lose all that money. That is why they want me dead. Your cure will work, Kira said with certainty. She had read his research files during her surveillance. The human was brilliant, even if he did not realize it. Maybe, Minho said. But I will never get the chance to find out. More assassins will come. They will keep coming until I am dead. No, Kira said firmly. They will not. Over the next few hours, Kira explained what was going to happen. She had contacts throughout the criminal underworld, people who owed her favors or feared her reputation. She would use those contacts to make Minho and So Young disappear completely. We fake your deaths, she said. House fire, bodies too burned to identify. Then I take you somewhere safe where you can continue your work. And what about you? Minho asked. Kira smiled, an expression that felt strange on her face. I have a new job now, protecting you and finishing what you started. 3 days later, the news reported that Dr. Lee Minho and his daughter had died in a tragic house fire. Their bodies were never found because there were no bodies to find. Kira had used her skills to create false deaths and new identities for both of them. The real Minho and So Young were already on a transport ship heading to a hidden research station in a distant star system. So Young was getting better every day thanks to her father's preliminary treatment, and Minho was excited to have access to advanced laboratory equipment. But the best part was that they were not alone. Kira traveled with them, no longer as an assassin but as their protector and friend. So Young had started calling her Aunt Kira, and the title made her happier than any payment ever had. 6 months later, Minho's cure was complete. He published his research through secure channels, making it freely available to anyone who needed it. Within a year, children across the galaxy were receiving the treatment that saved their lives. The pharmaceutical companies that had wanted Minho dead began to have their own problems. Their executives started disappearing, their illegal operations were exposed, and their profits vanished as cheaper treatments became available. Nobody could prove who was responsible, but rumors spread about a certain assassin who had changed sides. Kira stood on the observation deck of their new home, watching So Young play with other children who had been saved by her father's cure. The little girl was completely healthy now, laughing and running like any normal child. Thank you, Minho said, joining Kira at the window. For everything. Thank you, Kira replied, for showing me what I was missing. The galaxy's most feared assassin had found something better than fear. She had found a family worth fighting for and a purpose worth living for. And that, she decided, was the most dangerous thing of all.